Last night I watched Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and it was really stupid and boring and bad and awful and disappointing, and I hated it. Like, this is easily a contender for one of Sam Raimi's worst films. Which is a real shame, because I had no idea who was directing the film until the first couple seconds of the credits. And the revelation that the film was directed by Raimi was probably the biggest surprise the entire experience gave me. On top of that, the music was done by Danny Elfman, so the original Spider-Man movie's team was really reuniting here. But unfortunately, the closest thing this movie gets to the presentation of OG Spider-Man is the third one, because it was all horrendously mediocre. Now, to be fair, this is Marvel, so I have no idea how much of this is due to Sam Raimi just having a genuine dud, or far too much control from the overlords who run Marvel overseeing and overstimulating the decisions that Raimi wished to make. Because no doubt the most memorable parts of the film are the moments where you can actually see that notorious Raimi borderline horror style. Because oh yeah, this film is trying to market itself as one with horror elements, when the extent of these horrific aspects are just jump scares, which are so overused in horror that I have genuinely become desensitized to them. I never even jump or flinch anymore, and when it's not working, you can really tell how boring and lazy the technique is. It's a truly insulting tactic that represents everything that's wrong with modern horror. Anyway, I unfortunately have a lot to say, so strap your seatbelts on and enjoy the ride, because it's time to pick apart this movie, which only acts to support those who flaunt Marvel's lackadaisical production. Spoiler warning for the whole video. So this movie begins with a dream sequence of an alternate universe's Doctor Strange and the movie's MacGuffin character, America Chavez, being chased by a demon to find the MacGuffin object Book of Vishanti, which can basically do everything. And already there are a few problems. First of all, the green screen work in this scene was noticeably shoddy, especially for a Marvel film. When characters are seen sliding down steep floating objects or running on floating pillars, the blurs and camera work being used to mask imperfections look like shit. And even still, the actual presence of the characters looks awful, and considering this is the first thing that you see, it's a very weak start. We're also introduced to this movie's tendency to spout forced and terrible dialogue, because it's a very badly written film. Most notably in this opening scene when Strange chooses to sacrifice Chavez so her universe-warping powers can't be stolen. To which she argues this exact line, "But we're friends!" Now this is a great line, because it establishes to the audience that these two characters are indeed friends. And friends, friends don't typically kill each other. Did you get it, guys? Look, the two characters are friends!
Oh, new friend! Oh, friend! Please be my friend! Oh, friend! Oh, friend!
Wow, what great development, and I'm so glad this film is being written by Michael Waldron, who replaced Jade Bartlett, both of whom have literally never written a fucking movie before in their entire lives. And how could you not choose to hire Jade Bartlett for an extremely high production and high budget Marvel movie? I mean, just look at her extensive past works. Jade Halle Bartlett is an actress and writer known for Miller's Girl. Okay, let's see the extended bio. Perhaps there's... Oh, no, that's really... Wow, that's great. Let's give Miller's Girl her one credit, a little look... Oh... Alright, well maybe let's Google it. Oh. Guys, fuck Jade's Bartlett. We need to replace her. Let's go with Michael Watson instead. He's perfect for the job. He wrote an episode of Rick and Morty once, and his wife is a pediatric plastic surgeon. He also admittedly worked on Loki, which I haven't seen before, but the point still stands that this is a pretty bland CV. Speaking of inexperience, it certainly doesn't help that Xochitl Gomez, who starred in such classics such as Boob Sweat, is a very unimpressive actor, and America is a very unimpressive character. One who's only a part of the film because the team needed some sort of explanation for how characters would travel through the multiverse. Because this has to be a multiverse film. We can't just have a good old Doctor Strange film. This is post-Thanos Marvel. There needs to be a multiverse in every film, because how else are we gonna make something interesting? The stakes need to be world-ending in every single movie. We can't have friendly neighborhood superheroes anymore. The world needs to be on the verge of being fucking destroyed every single time now. If you haven't noticed, I'm being British and sarcastic because this whole multiverse shtick is getting really fucking old! Not every movie needs to be about the end of the world. Can't we just have a humble superhero movie anymore? Why? Why does Marvel insist on consistently making the most average and forgettable films, and try masking their blandness with artificially high stakes and new characters that are just fucking awful? They act like it's such a huge deal that a character can open portals to other multiverses, but it's not as impressive when Doctor Strange, the literal protagonist, did the exact same thing literally 1 or 2 movies ago in a far superior film. Albeit accidentally, but the point still stands. Thinking about it now, every new character after Infinity War has been terrible. Chavez is an obvious example, but you also have the entirety of Shang-Chi, which I've made my opinions about very clear in the past. No, wait, never mind, that's all irrelevant, because America Chavez is the franchise's first on-screen Latinx queer character. Sorry, but what the fuck is going... Am I missing something here? Did America Chavez's sexuality play any role in this film? Like even the tiniest bit? I'll answer that for you. No, it fucking didn't. Not even a little bit. And I'm not against representation in the slightest. In fact, I really hope that one day Marvel has enough balls to show a gay character on screen. But this isn't the way to go about it. And it genuinely really pisses me off. This stupid, soulless, cowardly fucking company doesn't have nearly enough dick to show some gay shit in their films because they want money from Russia and China who disallow gayness in film. But to be totally fair to them this time, the film has yet to air in either of those 2 countries, as well as a bunch of Middle Eastern ones. Though it should be said that the Russia and China cases have nothing to do with the alleged lesbianism, allegedly, and more to do with subtle promotion of anti-communist Chinese policies and the Russo-Ukrainian war. We haven't even finished talking about the first scene yet! This movie is such a consistent stream of utter shit that I could talk about it for days! Let's finally move on. Doctor Strange awakens from this dream and then goes to Christine's wedding where his annoying attachment to Christine is made clear to us.
Christine over there. All 3 holes.
This isn't a Spider-Man film. Doctor Strange is supposed to be stoic and smart and cool. So why is he acting like a teenager around this girl? It just forces you to take his character far less seriously. You can give him a love interest, that's perfectly fine. It could even be interesting seeing his approach to women for comedic effect. But Strange's actions regarding said love interest aren't consistent with how the studio intends to present other aspects of his character. Now Strange and Wong kill an octopus monster to save Chavez, who was accidentally transported to this dimension now, I suppose. We learn that these demons are hunting Chavez to steal her interdimensional powers and that she can't control said powers, as it only activates when she's afraid. Now let's analyze this for a second. Chavez forcefully throws herself and her immediate surroundings to random dimensions when she's afraid, but there are many points in this film where this fear is extremely convenient, only really activating when the film needs to move dimensions. The first time in her life this is seen is when she throws her and her parents into another dimension because she's scared of a bumblebee. How is the bumblebee scarier than her being chased down by a fucking giant octopus monster and being inches away from falling off a skyscraper? I understand that she was a child when the bumblebee attacked her, but she's supposedly only 14 years old in the events of this movie. Could they not have just chosen a slightly more scary scenario than a fucking insect? It just comes across as slightly comical, and doesn't fit the serious tone this film is going for. In the next scene, there's also some shit joke about Spider-Man, and Chavez is like,
"What, does he shoot spiderwebs from his bumhole?"
Which is a joke I remember everyone making when I was like 5 years old.
Oh, we don't have Spider-Man in other universes.
Okay, cool, but shouldn't Doctor Strange not even know who Spider-Man is? I mean, I know the end of No Way Home only erased Peter Parker, but do you mean to tell me that Strange has never questioned who was behind the mask? He's never questioned the massive supposed gaps in his memory to make him not remembering Peter possible? They literally could have just left this joke out or replaced it with a superhero who made more sense script-wise, but then you remember that this film's development was a total mess because of COVID, and that this film was actually supposed to release before No Way Home, so that explains it, I suppose. There's also a strange moment later where Strange is trying to convince her that her parents are okay because she's convinced they got thrown into a deadly dimension and got killed when the bumblebee came about, and Doctor Strange goes,
"Trust me, if they're anything like their daughter, then they're definitely alive."
And Chavez goes,
"Not bad."
And Strange goes,
"Thanks."
Now let's put aside how epic and funny this interaction is and acknowledge how little sense it makes. From what we've seen so far, at the point in this film where this is said, which is still the first act, Chavez hasn't displayed any signs of bravery or determination. All she's done is complain and be a slave to her power. She genuinely has absolutely zero fucking character and is horrendously boring throughout the entire bollocking film. And there is absolutely zilch amounts of chemistry between her and the protagonist. Is this just lip service? That wouldn't be very noble from Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange recognizes signs of witchcraft and consults Wanda to investigate. only to find that she's the one responsible for these attacks. I won't even bother asking how it's possible for her to coordinate these attacks because I'm sure some nerd will be able to explain it. The motive here is that Scarlet thinks being able to harness Chavez's power will bring her back to her children Billy and Tommy. So I suppose you have to have seen WandaVision for this plot to make any sense at all, because it's not exactly explained how she created this children, and unless you've seen the show, you wouldn't even know she ever had children. Now this in and of itself is already pretty weird, but it gets even worse when you realize for this movie to work, they just pick and choose which parts of WandaVision are canon and which aren't. So the children do exist. I can get behind that. But what about literally the entire point of Wanda's arc in the show, where she grows wiser as a person and learns to accept the death of Vision and her current reality for what it is? Nah, fuck that. Fuck all that. We don't need that development. We need a villain. So let's take this character who was really cool and everyone loved and make her a whiny bitch who can't be sympathized or empathized with. Also, I guess they couldn't come up with an excuse to not have Vision in this film, so they just chose not to mention it. It's almost like this premise wasn't a good idea for this movie. Could you not have just done something else, Marvel? Why were you so insistent on carrying out this plotline in particular? So Scarlet Witch is all like,
I had to shoot the man I loved through the head, and it meant nothing!
Which on paper seems to make sense, but I don't know, when you think about it for a few seconds, you realize that, whilst yes, she did shoot Vision at one point, she shot Vision only for him to be revived and killed immediately by Thanos again. So even if she didn't kill Vision initially, the exact same thing would have happened. So her point makes no fucking sense. But despite this, she seems to think it's a sensible enough reason to murder, like, every sorcerer in the Strange Retina. But then Chavez gets scared at a really convenient point, so her and Strange go to a different dimension, and then Wanda uses a skill called dreamwalking to take over the body of herself in this other dimension. So at this point, the script gets even lazier, and it's like, oh shit, wait a second, there are zero fucking stakes, we need to create some tension here. So what do? Well, they just decide that one of the sorcerers ended up surviving, just so they can die immediately, breaking the dreamwalk and disallowing Wanda from living her happy suburban life. This is done because they want tension, but they don't want to kill Wong. They only want to imply that he's dead, and then reveal that he's still alive later. The oldest trope in the book. Wong is like, you know, you have a happy life in the other dimensions. Is the knowledge of this not enough? But Wanda doesn't even respond, she just pushes him off the fucking cliff. And like, he tries to save himself by hooking onto the top of the mountain with his hook thing, but just misses in what might have been the funniest moment of the film. But that's still not enough stakes, so let's introduce some fanservice-y characters like Professor X so we can just kill him off immediately, as well as to create an illusion of danger. When we all know that these deaths are essentially meaningless because this is a completely different dimension. And this is only a completely different dimension because we need an excuse to put some fanservice-y characters in here. There's some woman who's like an English Captain America, but she's got a really annoying British accent, and she says, I can do this all day, but then immediately gets killed. That was pretty funny. There's also a moment where all these heroes are looking down on Strange, and Professor X is like, we can't trust you because our version of you was an asshole. And then there's a flashback where they kill Strange immediately after killing Thanos. But I thought Strange said there was only one universe where they actually beat Thanos. Didn't they make like a big deal out of that being a thing? The Illuminati actually seemed to kill Thanos way more easily than the others did. Did Strange just not want to die? That's kind of selfish and not at all heroic. Maybe he really is an asshole. Anyway, for literally no other reason but plot convenience, Professor X immediately and confusingly changes his mind and goes, no, actually, you know what, this one's cool, you guys should trust him. And just like that, everyone but Mordo trusts him. I must say that there is one genuinely good scene in this film, but only one, and it's a pretty meaningless one still. It's the scene where Professor X dies, because I think the way he died was really cool and shot really cleverly and creatively. And the horror elements here actually worked for a brief moment. It was definitely the most Sam Raimi moment in the film. It's at this point where Chavez's power convenience becomes stupidly potent, because Scarlet Witch has now broken into the room where she was being held in an unbreakable container by this world's Christine, and Wanda, all Nelly, shit's about to go down. She's got a face like thunder, she's about to fuck Bearman up. If there was any moment for Chavez to be afraid and trigger the dimensional warp, it would be now. But no, apparently a fucking bumblebee was scarier than this moment because nothing close to eventful fucking happens. Actually, that's a lie, because Chavez inexplicably gets super strength and punches through the unbreakable wall because she has plot armor, I suppose. I won't lie, I think I zoned out for a moment here because I got really bored. Not to worry though, because according to the Wikipedia, Strange, Chavez, and Palmer enter the space between universes to find the Book of Ashanti, which is the antithesis to the Darkhold, but Maximoff appears and takes over Chavez's mind, using her powers to send others to an Incursion-Destroyed Universe. I then realized I had a video to make and zoned back in.
I love penis!
Only to see Wanda initiating the spell to steal Chavez's powers, and then there were two Doctor Stranges fighting. And if there's one thing I hate in these godforsaken superhero films, it's villains who are just baddie versions of their good counterparts. It just comes across as really uncreative. Like, come on, this is Marvel. This is Doctor fucking Strange. He should be one of the trippiest and most creative characters in cinema at the moment. Why is he fighting a baddie version of himself? Strange then dreamwalks into the dead body of the version of himself that dies in the opening scene to save Chavez, but no, that's not allowed. So a couple of bat ghost things come out so Strange, he beats them easily and uses them to save Chavez. And he says,
You need to control your power now, America Chavez.
And Chavez is like,
No, it's only brought me misfortune.
No, it hasn't. It's brought us to where we need to be every time.
to which I thought, wow, even the film is acknowledging how lazy and convenient it's being.
What about the first time when I killed my parents?
No, even that was good because it brought us to this moment that we're in right now.
What the fuck are you talking about, you stupid Burke? Could you possibly be referring to this horrific situation where a 14-year-old girl is being painfully tortured by a witch and screaming in utter pain and terror? Are you talking about that moment, Doctor Strange? Now it's time for the worst scene in the movie. Wanda uses Chavez's portal to go see Billy and Tilly or whatever, but they're cute children, so of course this means that they're really shit at acting. Seriously, this whole scene felt embarrassing to watch, and I couldn't stop laughing at what's supposed to be an emotionally poignant scene. This wild Scarlet comes down the stairs, but then our Scarlet is like, no, piss off, these are my kids, and launches her unconscious. But theoretically, these two are the same person, so why is one so significantly stronger than the other? And why is our Scarlet so fucking stupid as well? How does she expect this to work? She just obliterated Timmy and Billy's mum, and now she's trying to play the caring guardian mother? The two kids start throwing stuff like TV remotes and that at her. Then at the exact same time, they decide to run behind some stairs unprovoked, and it's so badly choreographed that you could practically see Sam Raimi behind the camera going, alright, run away to behind the stairs in 3, 2, now! Yeah, that's perfect. Wait, is that really cliche and awful? No, it's cool, it's fucking Marvel, their fans don't care. So Tommy and Billy are now hiding behind the stairs with their hands clenching the bars in front of them, and they're making this noise. They're going, no. Me and the two lads to my right were just quietly dying of laughter at this point because we couldn't quite believe what we were watching. But we felt slightly guilty because there were two people in front of us who were very clearly a couple trying to have a romantic experience, like holding hands and shit. But the bloke kept turning back and death staring us as if to say, stop fucking laughing. So if he somehow watches this video, my bad, guy. So then Scarlet Witch comes to the revelation that she was wrong and Doctor Strange was right, and that's it. That's how this ridiculously powerful villain is defeated, through the power of love, baby. Or lack thereof in this case, I suppose. In one of the biggest anticlimaxes I've ever seen in a Marvel film. So now their actual mother goes up to console and gives some wise words to our Wanda. Or at least I think that's what I'm guessing she did, because the direction was so poor that I couldn't even begin to make out what Elizabeth Olsen actually said here. And I wasn't the only one who had this problem either, so it's not just a me thing. Then, I don't really know what happens. I guess Scarlet Witch dies? God, what a horrible and unemotional death that is. No one even seemed to mourn her. To be fair, she was a massive asshole. Whose fucking idea was it to take a character who fans love, who had a whole show devoted to her, who was more developed than so many other characters in your franchise, and turn them into a massive wanker for no reason for 2 hours, and then fucking kill them? Because all this does is negate all the hard work that everyone prior to this movie did for the character. Why was the writer for Loki hired for this film and not WandaVision? Wouldn't that have made so much more sense? Is she even dead? It's never really explained. I mean, it's a lose-lose, because even if she's still alive, then it goes from diabolical writing to diabolical for a different reason. Just a lazy tactic to squeeze emotion from the audience temporarily. That's pretty much the end of the movie, but we can't leave without talking about this. $200 million budget, everyone. And this is what they did. Go fuck yourself, Doctor Strange. Apparently, Sam Raimi was opposed to working on a superhero film ever again after the critical backlash that came with the third Spider-Man, but took this film on after his agent encouraged him to do so, thereby making this his attempt to fulfill audience expectations once again. And I love Sam Raimi. I think he's a phenomenal director and a great horror director, but I'm so sorry, Sam. This is wank. I think he's lost his touch a little bit, because since Spider-Man 2, including this one, the man has directed 4 movies, the most recent of which was in 2013, which means Doctor Strange was his first feature-length film in 9 years. But unfortunately, all 4 of these movies are bad. Sometimes in this industry, a director like Scorsese comes around, who manages to keep his prowess and legendary direction style throughout his life, aging like fine wine, only getting better with time, and never losing his mojo, releasing the amazing The Irishman at 76 years old. Maybe Raimi just doesn't have it in him. I really hate saying this, as I like to be optimistic, so I certainly hope that I'm wrong, because I want nothing more than Raimi to make something as good as he once could. The best thing about Raimi's previous good superhero movies was the presentation, the amazing transitions, the dynamic angles, and the masterful ideas, all of which are barren here, with crappy overused CGI, a bland presentation, and uncreative, cliched ideas. The way that X's death was presented was legitimately the only visual in the film that had me interested. The only other highlight didn't even have anything to do with the film, because probably the most entertaining part of the experience was some homie in the middle of the cinema who, at the random moments in this film, just went heh. And that made me laugh every time. I wouldn't recommend this film to anyone unless they're so dedicated to Marvel that they need to watch everything they put out, and I'm very excited to never watch this film again. And I'm giving Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness a 2 out of 10.
This Doctor Strange movie is so whack, bro. It's so fucking bad. 1 second. This movie is so diabolical. I'm gonna kiss Daniel.